Introverts. How did you meet your girlfriend? Story 1. We're both introverts, and as a result, it took a little while for us to actually become romantically involved. By a little while, I mean 7 years. She and I met when we were both 11, when we were put together to compete in a music competition as a duet. We're both cellists. I had a little 11-year-old crush on her straight away, and she had the same thing for me. Neither of us ever told the other about our feelings for years, instead talking to our friends about it and then getting into other relationships and forgetting about each other for a while. Eventually, after I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years, I asked my now SO if she wanted to catch up and play some music together. We saw each other for a few weeks in a row, and then, after 7 years of on and off feelings for each other, we became a thing, and I am happier than I've ever been. Story 2. I was living in a duplex with some friends. One day, I decided to take one of my roommate's dog for a walk, which I never usually did. Shortly after leaving the house, I was stopped by a girl who asked, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" I had never seen her before, but it was enough to start the small talk. She helped me walk the dog around the block, and we were basically inseparable from that point on. What my introvert self failed to notice at the time, she had been stalking me for weeks, trying to get me to notice her, walking her own dog past my house, riding her bike next to my car, waiting for me to get home from work when I would unknowingly street park in front of her house where she would be doing yard work. She succeeded by catching me walking that dog, which, remember, I never ever did. It was fate, I guess. 6 months after meeting me, I moved out of the duplex and 5 houses down the street. Married 16 years now. Well, I guess you could say that your roommate's dog really ended up being your wingman. Who knew that the key to finding true love was just a leash and a 4-legged friend away? Story 3. We worked together. I wasn't really interested at first. She seemed a bit standoffish, but one day she stayed after work and hung out talking to me. I invited her to a 4th of July cookout at a friend's house the next day, as my crush couldn't make it. She said yes and was very touchy-feely with me. I was oblivious still. One of my friends at the cookout suggested a few of us go see a movie the next day, and she said yes. When we went, she sat next to me and kinda snuggled up close. Still oblivious. After the movie, she hung out with me at my apartment, sat on my lap, and we watched a movie on Netflix together. I can't recall the name of the movie, but it was something romantic. She was cold and asked me to hold her, and then proceeded to put my hand on her. Not gonna lie, I was shocked. It wasn't until she left at 2 a.m. that I realized, what if she's into me? I told a close girlfriend of mine, and she almost hit me for not asking her out. So I called her up, and she said yes. We've been together 7 years now. I was both an introvert and an idiot. When guys say we don't catch signals, we really don't. I think we could say that love was in the air, but it took you a while to sniff it out. Thank goodness for your observant friend who pointed out the obvious. And hey, better late than never, right? It sounds like things really heated up during that movie night. I mean, who needs a romantic film when you've got real-life romance right beside you? Congrats on 7 years together, and hopefully you've gotten a bit better at picking up on signals since then. Story 4. I'm definitely a hardcore introvert, at least if you believe Myers-Briggs tests. But I'm not shy, don't have anxiety or anything like that. Still, I always had confidence issues and could never manage a cold open with a girl, even with friends of friends that I liked. I found creative ways to things up and make them horrifically awkward. Met my wife on Tinder and we dated for 4 years. Married for almost 5 now, and we just had our first kid. After talking online, we met at a bar and just hit it off. Funny thing is, she's way different than me. She's much more extroverted. I've rubbed off on her a little, and she's rubbed off on me a little. For me, my problem was always that I couldn't tell if a girl was interested, and I could never tell when I was crossing the line from flirting to being creepy. And I was never looking for anything casual. I wanted a relationship. By meeting a girl online, I knew she was interested and looking for the same thing as me. So I didn't get all in my own head about it, and I was just free to be myself. Did fine after that. Story 5. First day of college, I knew I wanted a change and put myself out there. So at this orientation thing for tech majors, I spoke to the one girl I saw. She was a cute, shy-looking redhead. Anyhow, just introduced myself and was nice. Nothing happened, and I went along my way. 2 days later, we're at another orientation thing outdoors with the whole freshman class at a lawn-type area, and I see her. She's surrounded by 4 to 6 friends of hers, so I ask my new roommate to be my wingman. He declines, damn coward, but I'm putting myself out there, damn it. I walk up to them, say hi, introduce myself, start talking to that girl, and ask her for her number. Never done anything like that before, and I got it. That night I text her and ask if she'd like to explore campus with me, and she says yes. We hit it off, talking and walking. We go to a movie and stuff, hang out in each other's dorms. 2 weeks later, she asks what we are, and I respond by holding her hand as we walked. 11 years later, we are happily married. Story 6. I never thought my love for late-night gaming sessions would lead me to the love of my life, but here I am telling the story on Reddit. So picture this. It's 3 a.m. and I'm deep in the throes of an intense online match. My teammates and I are all strangers, but we share a common goal: victory. It was during one of these late-night sessions that I first encountered Phoenix Rose, a player who seemed to be as much of a night owl as me. Over time, we played together more and more, and our conversations went beyond the game. We discovered we were both introverts with a penchant for staying up late and avoiding the outside world. One night, after an exhilarating win, she suggested we should meet up for coffee sometime. I hesitated, but eventually agreed, thinking it was a long shot anyway. Fast forward to the day of the meetup, I was a nervous wreck, toying with the idea of bailing. But curiosity got the best of me, and I walked into the cafe, scanning the room for Phoenix Rose. That's when I saw her, a petite woman with vibrant red hair, looking just as anxious as I felt. She waved me over, and I mustered up the courage to approach her. "Hey, are you Phoenix Rose?" I asked tentatively. She smiled warmly and replied, "Yeah, that's me. And you must be Silent Night?" I nodded and sat down. Over steaming cups of coffee, we talked about our gaming experiences, our favorite movies, and what it's like being introverts in a world that seems to favor extroverts. Before I knew it, hours had passed, and I felt like I'd known her my entire life. As we said our goodbyes, I blurted out, "Would you like to do this again? Maybe catch a movie or something?" Her eyes lit up, and she replied, "I'd love that." And just like that, I found the player 2 I'd always been searching for. We've been together ever since, proving that even introverts can find love in the most unexpected places. Oh, well, looks like you found your soulmate in the virtual world and brought it into the real world. Who would have thought that a late-night gaming session could lead to something so beautiful, and not just a win in the game, but a win in love as well? It's amazing how introverts can find common ground and connect on a deeper level. Who needs small talk when you can discuss gaming strategies and favorite movies over coffee? Story 7. My close friends and I met up for drinks before a house party, and one of my friends brought their course mate. Usually I have troubling being confident and outgoing around new people, but because I was comfortable with almost everyone there, I acted a lot more chill, cracking jokes, doing stupid stuff, basically my true self. She told my friend that she thinks I'm good looking, and it took me a good 2 hours to come up with the courage to talk to her. Anyway, we've been together for almost a year now, LOL. Reply 1. It is hard to me to be myself. I always try to say or do things that I would not do so that people see me well. Reply 2. My dude, being yourself is the most beautiful thing anyone could ask to see. Your friends and people close to you love you for who you are. Even if you act a different way every so often, they can see through it and they love it. Story 8. I hope a story of how I met my now husband is okay for this post. I was going to therapy and was encouraged to go to events and parties. I met him at a university holiday event, and we both volunteered to visit and give donuts to kids in the hospital. I pulled myself together and went to every party or hangout I was invited to. We got to know each other, got drunk with friends one night, and we started to making out. Then we went on a few dates, slowly became serious. Our first dates were pretty easygoing since we already knew each other, and the dates were more fun than a scary interview. We just celebrated 2 years of marriage. Story 9. Here we go. So, me and my girlfriend went to the same junior high school nearly 6 years ago now. I was 12 and she was 13. And me and her only shared one class together. I had my best buds in this class. We all sat in the very back and would just bullshit around and make gorilla noises at each other. I don't know why, we were 12 and it was funny, I guess. And she would always turn around and shoot everyone a side eye. Haha. Time went by and I developed a crush on her, and since we were both introverts, we never really talked, and I never conveyed my feelings to her. When the last couple of weeks of school rolled around, I found some courage in myself to start waving at her and smile at her, which would lead to small conversations, which led to me tapping her on the head when I would come into class. It wasn't until the very last day of school where she told me that she liked me, which then led to a very awkward hug before leaving school. And then another few weeks of awkward Facebook messaging. And nearly 6 years later, I'm 20 now and she's 21. We now live together and have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter and are planning on buying our own home within the next year or so, and hopefully get out of our hometown together. We all did dumb stuff when we were kids, especially us boys. But hey, who knew that a little wave and a smile could lead to such big things? It's amazing how love can grow from the smallest seeds, like a crush that started in junior high. Wish you two all the luck and love in the world. Story 10. My therapist recommended trying new activities to help me break out of my shell. I figured, hey, it's a bunch of nerds sitting around a table pretending to be magical creatures. How bad could it be? So there I was, our first session, awkwardly sipping my Diet Coke and clutching my character sheet when she walked in. Let's call her Lily. Lily was, without a doubt, the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen in person. She had a head of wild curly hair and an infectious smile that could light up the room. And to my utter surprise, she sat down right next to me. As the game progressed, our characters started interacting. Lily played a feisty halfling rogue, while I was a stoic human cleric. At first, our conversations were strictly in character, but slowly we began talking outside of the game as well. During one session, our characters found themselves in a life or death situation. My cleric had to make a choice: save himself or risk it all for Lily's rogue. The room went silent as everyone watched me, waiting for my decision. I took a deep breath, looked at Lily, and said, I choose to save her. The table erupted in cheers, and our characters formed a strong bond from that moment on. Our real-life conversations grew deeper too. We talked about our favorite books, our shared love for obscure indie bands, and our mutual disdain for small talk. I began to realize that I had never connected with anyone like this before. One night, after a particularly intense D&D session, Lily and I were the last ones left at the library. She looked at me with her big brown eyes and asked, "Do you want to get some coffee?" I nervously chuckled and replied, "Sure, as long as it's not too crowded." We went to the coffee shop down the street, and it was there that we talked until the early hours of the morning. As we left, I mustered all the courage I could and asked, "Lily, would you like to go out sometime? Like, on a date?" She smiled, and it felt like my heart was about to burst. I'd love to. And that, my fellow introverts, is how I met my amazing girlfriend. Who knew that a Dungeons & Dragons game could lead to the most magical adventure of my life? Story 11. Met her in high school. I was able to slowly get to know her. She was a friend of a friend in our friends group. I slowly got used to her. She became one of my closest friends. A friend in the same group did have the courage to ask her out. When that ended several years later, we were still friends. Then we got together. By that time, I had been in the army a while and was able to grow a pair. I'm still an introvert on the inside, but I've been able to get up and talk in front of 250 people. I would have rather been in my office with the door shut, but you do what you have to do. My advice is to be a chameleon. You can be an introvert, but you should be able to play the part of an outgoing, fun person. I do a lot of matching the enthusiasm of the person I talk to. If someone gives me a big, happy hi, I shake my head and blink like a bomb went off and say, hi. After a while, you can be confident and outgoing in public, but go home and hide in the basement. Story 12. I met my husband while I was shopping. I spent a good 6 weeks buying incredibly overpriced avocados from the shop he works at, and then after coincidentally winning at Fruit Box Weekly Draw, I added him on Facebook through the shop's Facebook page. Minor stalker alert here. And just asked him out. And here we are, a year later, married. Bonus, the avocados are now free. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.